Hey everybody, so a lot of you guys wanted me to do a reaction to the Quick Gameplay Thoughts 13.16. That was a blog in which Riot talked about game time, snowballing, durability, and roll balance. So this was something that talks a lot about things that I talk about, and in a lot of ways feels like a Rioter's response to things that I've been talking about recently. So I think it's something that's interesting to go over. So before I even begin this, I do want to remind everybody, I know you guys are annoyed at me saying this. I know you guys are, but you can always put me on your second monitor. You can always listen to me. You can always just use me as a sleep aid. My voice is fabulous for that. I say that because some people watch my videos and they're like glued to the screen and they're like, this is boring. And I'm like, well, there's only so much I can do when I'm responding to a blog post. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, put sparklers on, what do you want me to do? So, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment on anything you feel is necessary to leave a comment on in this video. So, of course, it's on game time, snowballing, durability, and roll balance. Yeah, these are things I've been talking about lately. So let's read the post. Hey everyone, Red Foxen here, the quick gameplay thoughts for 13.16. This week I want to talk about 3 topics we've been seeing pop up lately. Game time and snowballing, champion durability, and roll balance. Primarily top, bot, and jungle. I want to say right here, it's like the meme, like why is it whenever... I don't even remember. It's like, it's just always, roll balance is always top, bot, and jungle. Sometimes mid, sometimes support. For the most part, mid is always overpowered. There hasn't been so much lately, but for the most part, for 90% of League's existence, mid is overpowered. So everyone just kind of like ignores mid. It's there, right? But bot versus top, who gets to carry more? Bot laners or top laners? That's been something that kind of flips back and forth. I would say about 70 to 80% of the time, bot lane carries better. And that kind of feels bad for top laners because they're just playing the bad lane. Then jungle has been overpowered for about 10 years now. And I feel like, okay, here's my actual thoughts. I think Riot is kind of in a corner on this one because jungle has been so overpowered for so long that like actually nerfing jungle down to a fair state will make most people quit the game. Like you would need to massively nerf jungle to get it down to a fair state. And I think the problem that Riot is experiencing, I think what they need to do is they need to just slowly nerf the jungle down patch after patch after patch, like slowly adjust it downward in ways that don't really feel bad, like one at a time, just slowly over the course of the rest of this year, just slowly pull it down, right? Like just slowly patch by patch, pull it back down. Because if you do it all at once, I guarantee junglers will throw a conniption, they'll probably spam videos, they'll death threat, stuff like that, right? But if you just like, okay, we're nerfing their gold a little bit, okay, we're nerfing their health a little bit, okay, we're making them stay in the jungle a little bit. If you just do like a little bit of that, okay. I just felt like saying that, okay. Champion durability, obviously champion durability is down. Snowballing is up. Why? Because you nerfed old early game survivability. You can't stay alive early game anymore. You can't. You just cannot stay alive early game anymore. Sorry if my hair's kind of greasy. It's like really hot here in Texas. It is 100 degrees Fahrenheit at 9 p.m., which is hot. It's sweaty here. I apologize, but there's nothing I can do about it other than taking a shower before every single video. Game time, I think is down overall. I think I said that in one of my videos. I couldn't really get the exact information for it though. So if Riot's gonna like disagree with me and be like, actually game time is fine. Like, well, you don't exactly give everyone the information to work with. Riot has a large tendency to hide information from the player base, which can often lead to some of these more prominent issues. That's something I want to talk about, not right now, but maybe I'll do something about it later. But Riot tends to hide as much information as they can from the player base. They try to like hide it away so that the players can't talk about it, make videos on it, etc. And that just means that like in a lot of ways it can feel bad because like if game time is coming down, there's no way to track it other than to feel it. And if the only way to do things is to feel it, then obviously we're going to get really wrong information. Now, of course, if game time goes up and down, people could overreact to that. Game time is down 30 seconds. The game is ruined now, right? Like maybe people react like that. But to be blunt, there's not much a lot of people can go on because there's just no information. The game feels bad right now. I think a lot of people can agree with that. Top laners keep getting buffed and top lane is feeling better than it did in previous patches. I do agree with that. Top lane is feeling better after they've been buffing so many other items and champions, and especially with the upcoming item buffs, top lane will feel better. But like, how do I know as a player whether or not like it's right? It feels bad still. Like it's not quite there, but it's better. And like, how do I as a player know when it feels good? Because I have no information. I can just say it feels bad. What feels bad? I don't know. It just feels bad. Anyway, snowballing is because there's so much nerfs to early game survivability, nerf to doing shield, nerf to potions, nerf to second wind, blah, blah, blah. That was all done for pro play, which I still do not care about. Pro play has directly made my game worse. I am allowed to say that. If we consider that, you know, who gets to yell at riders? I get to yell at riders. Why? Because my game is worse. Now, that doesn't, I'm not saying pro players can't also yell at Riot. If they want to yell at Riot and they want to demand that their game feels better, that's fine. I also get to yell at Riot and say, I want my game to be better. My game has gotten worse. My League of Legends is weaker, is shittier, because you nerfed so much shit for pro play. Survivability-wise, that is. Game time and snowballing. Overall, we've been pretty happy with the current length of games. Right now, laning is roughly half the game, while the other half is mid to late game. And in games that extend past that, we're seeing a good amount of back and forth that allows more gameplay options in the mid to late game. In regular brackets of play, game time is slightly longer than Season 9, Season 2020, 2021. Why don't they just say Season 10 and 11? Why do they say Seasons 9, 2020, and 2021? Okay, that's annoying. And slightly shorter than in Season 2020. Why? Why did you do this? Seasons 9, 2020, 2021, and slightly shorter than Seasons 2022. That would be Season 12, not Season 20. He used 3 different ways of clarifying things. Oh, man. For elite brackets of play, game time has been stable from Season 9. Okay. Game time is slightly longer than Season 9 through 11, shorter than Season 12. For elite brackets of play, game time has been stable from Season 9. Okay. I'm going to read between the lines, and you all are going to read between the lines. The fact that he clarifies game time is slightly longer than Seasons 9, but he doesn't say Seasons 8, that means that Season 8 and below had shorter games, and in Season 9, 10, God, this is formatted so annoying. I can't do it. It's just so annoying to read. I gotta move past it. Basically, game time isn't really that different. It's a little bit shorter than last season, yes. Probably due to all the snowballiness. Okay, I gotta move past it because that formatting is giving me an aneurysm. Snowballiness in regular play is in a healthy spot and still lower than pre-durability update levels. I agree, but what was the point of doing a durability update? What was the point of doing a durability update if we're gonna go ahead and then like what did you do? Like, basically I have a cup, right? And the durability update gave me a lot of gold in my cup, right? And the problem is, as a Rioter, they keep picking that gold out. All the advantages of the durability update, they're like, well, we need this for pro play. Well, we need this for pro play. Well, we need this and this and this and this and this for pro play. And we need to make Yone better. And we need to make Yasuo better. And the thing is, there's still like 1 or 2 gold coins dingling around in my cup. But like, this thing used to be full. The durability update filled my cup all the way up. And now there's just like 2 or 3 gold coins dingling at the bottom here. So I'm saying, like, you spent it. You had an allowance. You had a shitload of allowance after the durability update, and you spent it all on all these different things. Each time something happened, you dipped into the durability update cup, and you took something out of it. And now we're at the point where, what are you going to do? Do you have to do a second durability update to refill the cup? Because that's just stupid. You have to have the fun police. That's what Morello did. If anyone ever asks me, Hashinshin, what was Morello good at? Morello was good at looking like the evil Rioter who kept nerfing things and being the fun police. Because at the end of the day, if the power level of the game keeps going up, some Rioter needs to be the one to be, no, and get it back down. Morello, back in seasons 1, 2, 3, I think 4, he was good at that. And if you guys don't know Morello, he was like he was the original live designer, right? And that's what he did. And the problem is, right now, no Rioter wants to look unpopular. Because, to be honest, too much of you guys are on social media. I'm going to be honest, you guys are on social media way too much these days. And it's probably bad for your mental health to have so many people yelling at you. Being able to control your social media and being able to have, this is my Rioter account, this is my personal account, right? Being able to do that would be significantly better. But the problem is, all of you guys are trying to be popular with the player base. We've got Freak streaming. We've got August streaming. All you guys keep trying to be popular in the player base. And the problem is, none of you want to look like the bad guy. Look, I promise you, Hire me, I'll be the bad guy. I promise you, I will nerf everything and I will do that. But failing that, which, you know, obviously is not going to happen, failing that, you guys kind of need a bad guy at this point. You kind of need an aggro sponge. After Merlo, it was Ghost Crawler. After that, it was Meddler. Was it Meddler? It was somebody. I don't even remember. Right now, the problem is you guys don't have a damage sponge. You don't have a tank. You need a tank on your live design team. I just realized my camera's like a little bit off. You need somebody who goes in and says, no. Junglers, you're too OP. We got to nerf them. And then he gets hate and everyone writes videos. I hate you, Riot, bad guy. I'm saying all this. I'm saying all this because you cannot keep this up. We've seen this. This cannot continue. Snowballing seems regular plays in a healthy spot and still lower than pre-durability updates. In Elite play, however, snowballiness has increased a bit due to how the changes to Dragon and early Sustain in patch 12.14 have been optimized by players over time, which was intended to increase the pace of slower pace pro games. Well, good. Pro games have made me shittier. Okay, so wait, so I'm going to read between the lines here. Snowballiness in regular plays is still in a healthy spot. In Elite play, however, snowballiness has increased. That actually means, if I'm reading between the lines here, what they're trying to say without actually saying it is that the game is currently more snowbally at the high ranks than it was before the durability update, which I would actually agree with. Oh my god. Before the durability update, generally speaking, champions would go with tankier items first, things like Gore Drinker. Now everyone just goes with the first item lethality. With the nerfs to Second Wind, Doran Shield, potions, it does. And I think what they're saying, they're trying to not actually say it outright, but unfortunately the trade-off was increased snowballing is Elite play, as they are significantly better at taking objectives and utilizing early game advantages to snowball their leads. So we've done it. Is this Riot actually admitting it, I wonder? Are they actually saying, are you guys actually admitting that yes, the game is now more snowbally than it was before the durability update? Because that's bad, Riot. Like, I assure you, that's actually really, really bad. That means instead of a few gold coins left in this cup of the durability update, you're running dry. You got nothing left. You spent it all. You're bankrupt. You bankrupted yourselves. There's nothing left to spend. I know I keep saying the same thing, but holy shit, that is really bad, Riot. If we are now more snowbally than we were before the durability update, that is really bad. I cannot express how bad that is. That is really fucking bad. What are you gonna do? A second durability update? And all for pro play. All for pro play. I don't care about pro play. Make my games fun, then maybe people would be more interested in pro play. If my games aren't fun, I don't care about pro play. Ideally, lanes are able to snowball a reasonable amount, such that lane play feels rewarding and gives an advantage going into mid game, but does not completely decide the game. That's fair, I agree with that. For example, we think that a Darius comes out of laning 3 kills and 40 CS should realistically be able to win a 1v2 due to their earned advantage, but they need to then carry the advantage through repeated success. So I heard my song, I remembered it was my Spotify put on to kind of be in the background of this video. But they need to then carry that advantage through repeated success in some broader team-to-team conflict before winning the game. I just realized that's why my desktop was so weird. Okay, no, the song should actually be a bit better in the background now. No, now it's just muted. Okay, now it's good. No, okay, the song is not actually playing correctly. There's supposed to be a song in the background playing to keep you guys... Okay, I don't know if that's too loud now. Oh boy, I really screwed up this video, did I not? Well, I'm not going back and changing it. I'm not going back. I'm not saying all this. I'm like 14 minutes in. It's already 9 p.m., my dudes. I can't. I have no time in my day. But they then need to carry that advantage through repeated success in some broader team-to-team conflict before winning the game. Okay, all this paragraph, I'm going to summarize it up because I kind of split up what I was saying into multiple thoughts here because I have ADHD. Basically, they're saying, yes, if you win your lane, you should be able to snowball. Yes, if you win your lane, you should be able to win a 1v2, but you should need repeated success to continue that advantage. I agree. with that, and they will then need to carry that advantage through repeated success and some broader team-to-team conflict before winning the game. Yes, I agree. If you win your lane, you will need to win a team fight. You can't just win your lane, then lose all the team fights. That would be unfair to the opposing team. If the opposing team is winning every team fight, but somehow you've just snowballed so hard that you can just split push everyone to death, that probably feels bad. But what does that do for a top laner? I don't know, because you can come out of the lane as a top laner, and you can come out in a position where your team is lost. Now, if 4 people loses and top lane wins, does that mean top lane should be able to win the game? Because I can tell you that an AD carry winning can solo carry a game with a good support, but a top laner can't do that. Can a top laner with a good support do that? Probably not right now. Probably not, actually. We're aiming to make significant changes to game time. Oh no, so we're not aiming to make significant changes to game time. When they said we were, I was like, why? You just said it didn't change. No, we're not aiming to make significant changes to game time, but are continuing to investigate ways to reduce snowballing in elite play while not slowing down the pace in pro. Things we're investigating include lowering the impact of early deaths, adjusting the influence junglers currently have on their games, and decreasing the impact of early objective rewards. We're still exploring what these changes would look like, but since design changes in this space are challenging and take time to solve, we won't likely be able to meaningfully address these until after Worlds. Ah yes, the Riot MO. Guys, we can't adjust things. The season has just started. Guys, we can't adjust things. The season is wrapping up. Pros need their finals. Guys, we can't adjust things. The next season is about to start. Guys, we can't adjust things. The season finals are about to happen. Guys, we can't adjust things. Worlds is about to happen. Okay, here's the preseason. We're going on vacation. Okay, the season has started. Repeat, 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 repeat. So you're telling me once again pro play is screwing over my ability to enjoy this game. Great! While we acknowledge players and not all players are interested in pro, and I'm not, and I don't know why I'm being so punished because I'm not interested in pro. There's a significant portion of League's audience that cares deeply about it. So we're trying to find the best compromise between solo queue and pros, as we don't want to purely sacrifice one for the benefit of the other. But you did. But actually you did. What you just said you didn't want to do, you've already done. And you admit that repeatedly. Have they not? Am I going crazy? They are repeatedly saying that they have screwed over. They have repeatedly screwed over solo queue to appease pro play. They're saying this right here, which was intended to increase the pace of slower pro games. So the game is snowballier because of pro games. But then down here, they're saying, man, we don't want to sacrifice one for the other, but you are, and you are willing to do that. So long as you sacrifice solo queue for pro play, that's good for you. You're willing to do that, but you're not willing to sacrifice pro play for solo queue. So the question that I have for any rider who happens to be making it to 18 minutes in this video is, where does this end then? Are you willing to see players continue to quit the game? Are you willing to see content creators continue to quit the game? Are you willing to lose those long-lasting streamers that have generated their audience? Are you willing to see those audiences pulled away from League into other games just because you want to keep pro play the way it is? Because that's the end result. That's not me being mean or anything. That's me just speaking as a person who's looking at this from an objective standpoint. If you maintain the current course of putting pro play way above regular play, if pro play's up here and regular play's down here, you will continue to bleed off people for the benefit of pro play. And is that what you want? Because I'm not sure the fact that you're talking about it so much right here does lead me to believe that this is a problem, that you're noticing this is a problem. You as a company have noticed there's a problem. There's a problem enough to have it discussed. It's a problem enough to put into a blog post to post publicly that you're addressing it. So you notice that there's a problem. You notice that there's a problem with people quitting the game. You notice there's a problem with content creators moving on to other projects, to other games, but you're not willing to address it in any way. And isn't that crazy? There's nothing more I can say. I just have to move on then. Durability. We've been seeing discussion about damage returning to the game now that durability patches a year behind us. We agree that damage has been slowly creeping back up, but there are a few reasons for this. Item changes from mid-season this year initially resulted in an increase in damage, but after nerfs in the last few patches have been adjusted to be neutral damage-wise with where we were a year ago. I need water, man. My mouth is... There's some specific champions who lost durability from changes to Shield Bow and Bloodthirster, and we've been trying to restore that over time. Example, recent durability increase to Yone and Yasuo. So I need to get water, or else I'm going to keep slurring my mouth is so dry. Okay, so they said the item changes from the mid-season resulted in increased damage, but the nerfs recently have adjusted damage back to where it was a year ago. The problem is I'm not sure I entirely agree at all. In fact, actually, I don't know, because the problem is, like, I don't know what stat are you using, right? Like, you're telling me things that I cannot independently verify. What I can independently verify to you is the amount of champions who are building pure damage. I'm talking lethality builds, I'm talking pure damage builds, I'm talking champions who do not do tank items whatsoever. Unfortunately, tank items right now are absolutely terrible. I think that's been true for quite some time. Randuin's Omen, despite being buffed and supposedly supposed to be an anti-crit item, is terrible. Spirit Visage, despite being double buffed now, is still doing terrible. Basically seeing nobody building it. Force of Nature was utterly obliterated and nobody wants to build it. Frozen Heart was brought down, and we're seeing very few champions actually opting into Frozen Heart to try to get a tanky item. I would say that what you're saying here doesn't make any sense to me. Are you saying that 80 carries are doing the same damage they did after the durability update? Because I'm not sure even that's true. Because we're seeing many more 80 carries. You might say that if they go Gale Force, they do less DPS because they don't have Infinity Edge. Maybe, but with all the Giga buffs to Lord Dominic's Regards, with all the buffs to Rage Blade, with all the buffs to Infinity Edge, if people do opt into damage builds, their damage are absolutely nutty. The amount of damage people can do is absolutely insane. So I don't entirely agree with this. Now, when you talk about champions who lost durability from changes to Shield Bow and Bloodthirster, you're talking about 80 carries. And the problem is, you made 80 carries, and I will be on the side of 80 carries here, you made 80 carries do significantly more damage and be less tanky. This is less fun from the perspective of a top laner. Because who do they shoot at? They shoot at the melee. What am I playing? I'm playing the melee. So they do significantly more damage to me if I'm playing the melee, but in return, they're squishier. Now, what does that mean? That means if I'm playing Renekton, and I flash Rage Stun the 80 carry into a Gore Drinker proc, into an auto attack that I cancel into my Q, cancel into my E, then I auto attack again, cancel into my second E, and I do all this, you know, they only get maybe a split second of being unstunned before they're dead from full. Sure, I can do that, and that is possible, and that does kill them, but at the same point in time, if I don't flash stun on them, or if they have someone peel me, or if they have an enchanter shield them or something like that, then I don't get the kill. Or if I get stunned, or if I get engaged on, then I'm just utterly obliterated. And what I'm just describing right now is League of get one shot or be one shot. Now, yes, Renekton can do things like Star X Gauge, Core Drinker, etc., but at the end of the day, these elements, I'm gonna be blunt, because you guys giga buffed Lord Dominic's Regard so goddamn hard, because Heartsteel was overpowered and you made Lord Dominic's Regard do so much damage, it's up to 35 damage. What was it at? It was at 25? So it's gained 10 damage, and it does more health damage, and it increases magic damage. Like, it's insane. I mean, I had an Ashe just today, literally today, because I do play this game. I had an Ashe who dealt 2,400 damage in 2 seconds. Just proccing Trinity twice. And what the actual fuck? Because what did you do to Ashe? Well, did you make Ashe tankier? Did you give her more armor? Did you give her more magic resist? Did you make her more able to survive? No, you just buffed her Q damage and you made her more damaging. So actually, I totally disagree with this entire statement here. I don't know what you're possibly using to validify what you're saying here, but I don't think what you're saying is valid. I disagree. Another reason for this gradual decrease in durability is our bi-weekly patches. Since the league gets constantly updated, nothing is ever truly permanent. We expect a natural decline in durability over time from regular balance changes because when we make balance changes, in addition to the main focus of balancing the game, we also need to take champion fantasy into consideration. For example, if a champion like Talia, who hasn't been strong in a while, got a buff, her players may not be excited to see a health buff, but they do get excited when they see a damage buff. Durability also may not be what they need to become more viable. Additionally, the nerfs to Enchanter earlier this year led to more lethal damage-oriented supports making their way to bot lane. We suspect this has also contributed to the increase of overall damage in games. Okay, but the problem here is we've been talking about this for, Jesus Christ, 13 years now. I mean, I've been here since the beginning. I've heard this so many times. Oh no, enchanters were OP, so then we made damage supports good. Oh no, the damage in the game has skyrocketed, because now instead of an enchanter shielding people, we have a mage killing people. Great, I've heard this all before. We know this, right? We actually do know this, and I've heard this before, and I've been in this situation before, and I'm gonna be blunt. What you guys need to do is stop pushing damaging supports. I know they're fun, I know that people like playing them, but the fundamental issue is the difference between having, say, a Leona on your team or having a Soraka on your team is absolutely massive. The Soraka can straight up out heal people and be a huge threat and just generally keep anyone from dying, whereas the Leona tries to one-shot people with the AD carry. The difference is, are you going to one-shot people or are you going to infinite sustain? The difference between those two is absolutely massive. And that's just Leona. We're not even talking champions like Brand or Xerath or stuff like that. I've heard this all before. In addition to that, when we make damn balance changes, you want to make it fun. Her players might not be excited to see a health buff, but do get excited when they see a damage buff. I don't care what her players are excited for. I know you do because you're a company, but you're also supposed to be the balance team. The balance team that does damage. I don't know if you're getting fed direction down from above, but if you're not getting fed things down from above, then I think you seriously need to consider that it's not your job to be everybody's friend. This is what I was going into earlier, unfortunately, when I was talking about all these rioters with social media accounts, streaming, trying to be everybody's friend, posting memes, etc., etc. I'm sorry to say, but it's not your job to be people's friends. I would highly recommend you... I know this sounds mean, but I would recommend the live design team doesn't really even hang out on social media. Maybe if you... What's the right way to put this? I would recommend to have one focal account, one main Twitter account that posts information, and I would recommend you guys stop doing it from your own personal accounts, because that attaches you more so to the patch notes. Now it's not the live design team making a change, it's Frunkson making a change, or it's Freak making a change, which A, is going to get you hate, and B, I'm going to be blunt, I feel like it has been making you guys try to be people's friends lately, where you try to do fun changes, where you try to appease certain people, and that's not what you need to be doing. For example, you guys tried to nerf all the healing in the game because people are trying to complain about healing. Well, now that all the healing in the game is nerfed to an all-time low, and I mean an all-time low, I mean the amount of people, I mean, to be blunt, before the durability update, before all that armor and health was added into the game, my high end, like the amount of health I would consider to be in a good team fight I could tank on Aatrox was 10,000. Now, it's like 5,000 to 6,000. I keep track of my death recaps. It used to be with the old Gore Drinker before the durability update, I could get a good 10 to 12, sometimes 13,000 health before I died on Aatrox. And now it is not nearly that much, not even half sometimes. I mean, sometimes you only heal a good 1,000 health because just all the nerfs to healing. But why was that done? Why was healing nerfed into the ground? Was it because you guys caved to public pressure? Did you really think after healing being at about the same values for 10 years that now it was overpowered? And I'm not going to get into this argument because I know how much lower healing is. Conquer used to be 15%, Death's Dance used to be 15%, then Wit's End also used to heal on that. Ravenous Hydra was 18% lifesteal. It was very common for champions like Camille to heal 400 or 500 on their mid to late game Q2s just because of all the health stacking. Or I should say all the healing stacking. Now, Camille heals like 100 to 200 on her Q2, leniently, and that's being pretty goddamn lenient right there. So all I can say is you should be less enthusiastic about making the players excited. If the players want to get excited, you should be doing reworks to champions. You should be doing mid-season updates. You shouldn't be going, oh man, my favorite Shaco streamer is mad. I know, we'll make Shaco do more damage. Yay! Oh no, my favorite Jin streamer is mad at me. I know, I'll make Jin do more damage. Like, that's just not how you should be looking at things. And I know you might say, oh, Hashinshin, you're being a bastard, you're being an asshole, that's not how we do things. But I'm gonna be blunt, the way you're phrasing this very much does seem that's how you're doing things. Once again, I would highly suggest, and this is just me to you, I would suggest you get a fun police. I think you guys need a fun police. I think you guys need a main Rioter who goes out there, whose job is to be the fun police. The guy whose job it is to say, you know what, guys? X is doing too much damage. We just got to tone it down. This class is just doing too much damage. We got to tone it down. You guys got to do that because you have not been working in a cohesive design. You've basically just been panicking and like you've been everywhere. Why is healing nerfed into the absolute ground? If durability is barely even up after the durability update, then why is healing still nerfed into the goddamn ground? Why, if I'm fighting Aatrox, often do I not even feel like I need to get a healing debuff against him because he's only healing like 1,000 to 2,000 health throughout a fight, leniently. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Working towards a durability level similar to patch 12.12, where each class was viable, combat felt like it was interactive, and many champions were viable. In the original release patches, 12.10 and 12.11, Assassin and Burst champions weren't viable. Disagree. Actually. Strongly disagree. I remember looking at the stats back then. The Assassin and Burst champions weren't viable because they were still building tanky. They were still building Gore Drinker into shit like the Black Cleaver. We still saw that all the time. We did. You have Freak talk about, oh, Zeri players still build Trinity even after we killed Trinity Zeri because they don't read patch notes, but you're expecting that all the Assassin players were definitely 100% adjusted to the new item changes, to the new durability levels, that they all knew within one patch what to do. Now, I disagree with that, and the reason I disagree with that is pretty goddamn obvious, because we've seen Assassins start creeping up again and again into the dominant role. Assassins are not a very big class. If we're talking 80 Assassins, there's like Kiana, Talon, Kha'Zix, Pantheon, if we're being fair and including him, I guess. There's not that many of them. And right now, I can pull it up right now, like as in right in front of us, we can see that we already have, oh wait, who's that? It's the dominant Kha'Zix, who's completely dominant. Why? Because you guys keep trying to adjust to make him feel better. And we can see here, he still has a 1% build rate on Gore Drinker, an item which is basically trolling your team to death. Still, 1% of the player base is trying to force. It has been a year, and they are still, 1 out of every 100 Kha'Zixes are still trolling their team to death with Gore Drinker. I rest my case. If we use patch 12.9, the patch right before the durability update as baseline, 12.12 was 10% more durable for squishy champions like Caitlyn, Victor, and Soraka, and patch 13.15 is 5% more durable. So we're still better off than where we were, but damage has definitely crept up. But here's my question to you. Here's my actual question to you. How much healing is there left in the game? How much sustain, how much ability to keep your champion alive is left in the game? With the nerfs to things like the Lifesteal Rune, with nerfs to things like Gore Drinker, with nerfs to things like the amount of healing basically on everything, or Conqueror, everything has got its healing nerfs, everything. Even Death's Dance is less than a third of the healing that it used to be. So even if durability is 5% higher, one of the issues is back in pre-durability update, pre-Gore Drinker nerfs, it was pretty common for Gore Drinker to be healing 2,000-3,000 HP if you were playing Aatrox. If you were playing Aatrox and you hit a good 3-4 man Gore Drinker, it would straight up heal 2,000-3,000 HP. Now you might say that's overpowered, but that's what was keeping the game survivable, was the intense amounts of healing. Yes, champions might be 5% more durable, but they've also lost like 60 to 70% of the amount of healing they can get. And I don't think those numbers are even made up. Now, they did nerf healing debuffs, so it is fair, but even once we account for healing debuffs, healing is probably, and I would argue, about half as much as it used to be. Even accounting for healing debuffs going from 60% to 40%, it is pretty common these days that even if you are not healing debuffed at all, you will still struggle to heal any meaningful amounts. The only champions that can really do it lately are like Renekton with a Gore Drinker into a Rage Q, sometimes Aatrox if he hits like Giga Lethality Qs. I think that's about it, to be blunt. Shield Bow went from getting lifesteal on the shield proc to now it gives attack speed, I think it is. So we're still better off than where we were, but damage has definitely crept up. And I remind you that damage has crept up while healing has gone down, while the incentive to build tanky items has gone down. So this isn't just a one-time issue. This is an issue with many different things all going on at the same time. We intend to gradually bring durability back to 12.12 levels through regular balance changes, especially for squishy classes. But how about for bruisers? Love it or hate it, and I know many AD carry players, you will all be hearing me right now and you'll all be fuming at the mouth, red-faced. Bruisers being giga tanky is one of the things that makes teamfights good in this game. Bruisers building Sterix Gauge because it's so goddamn strong, Bruisers going Gore Drinker because it's so goddamn strong is one of the things that allowed teamfights in this game to be good. Their ability to soak up an entire team's damage or soak up the focus of an AD carry and not die in 2 or 3 seconds is what made some of those earlier teamfights that we saw last year or even the year before that. Hell, for all of League's existence, I'll be blunt. For all of League's existence, Bruisers have carried, making teamfights more interesting. If an AD carry shoots an AD carry, they tend to die in 2 seconds, if that. They tend to just instantly explode each other. But if an AD carry shoots a bruiser, the bruiser tends to stay alive, and if they heal, and if their team can make use of that, then the team fight can be more interesting. To be blunt, the problem is, right now, that because bruisers are opting into going full lethality, because bruisers are opting into doing one-shot, and because Gore Drinker is weaker, Sterix Gauge is weaker, building defensively is overall weaker, Spirit Visage is weaker, Omen is extraordinarily weak. Because all these things are so goddamn weak, we're not seeing anyone step up in a team fight and be tanky. Once again, let me bust out my old u.gg here. If I pull this up, let's look at the top 10 most picked top laners at Masters Plus. This is the rank I play. We can see Renekton builds a bruiser build and actually is tanky. Aatrox is funny one-shot. Jax goes bruiser build. K'Sante goes tank build. So this is 1, 2, 3 champions who are kind of sort of tanky, but including Jax in this tankiness is a bit sketchy. Yone builds one shot, Camille one shot, Fiora one shot, Riven one shot, Darius tries, but let's be blunt, the itemization simply isn't there for Darius to be tanky. And whereas Renekton can go Gore Drinker with Rage Qs and Sterix and that sort of stuff to heal, Darius can't. Jace is funny one shot. So in the top 10, we have, realistically, if we exclude Jax, because, well, Jax isn't really that tanky, especially because you guys nerfed Jax's tankiness, we have 2 champions, a mere 2 champions in the top 10 right now who can actually get tanky enough to make teamfights last long enough and be interesting enough and not just be one-shot fests. Do you not understand that that's a problem, Riot? The game's been balanced and it has been built on the fact that bruisers can soak damage. Bruisers have, for all of League's history, been tanks. They have been. Sorry to say to tank players, but Riot realized back in like season 4 that tanks just weren't really that popular. So they started to push bruisers really hard, and bruisers got really tanky, and bruisers got way more base damage, and bruisers just kind of replaced tanks. Now, for you tank players who might get mad at me and say, well, they shouldn't have done that, but that's how they kept the game interesting. I'm just spitting blunt facts right now. I'm just saying the blunt truth. The blunt truth is, bruisers get to be tanky because it makes the game more interesting when they are tanky. When bruisers can stay alive, teamfights last longer, and the game is more interesting. Okay. We're planning to do this by buffing non-damage things where it makes sense, nerfing damage rather than other things more frequently, and by spot adjusting champions who've excessively skewed towards high damage builds which will decrease overall damage by some amount holistically. They mention Aatrox, Hecarim, Xinqiao, Kled, Vi being notable examples here. Now, to be clear, they have unveiled what they're intending to do for Aatrox, Hecarim, Xinqiao, and Vi. Not Kled, though. I would be very interested to see what they're doing with Kled, because Kled has been out of the meta so long, and he's just been a funny one-shot champion for so long. I would be interested to see tanky Kled come back, be that by removing the cooldown on his passive, be that by giving him some health ratios, higher armor and magic resist per level, perhaps. Something like that. Give him, like, maybe his health turns into damage on his E, maybe? Something like that. I don't know. I'm interested to see what Riot's doing, and by reducing the amount of snowballing as mentioned in the previous section. But the thing is, this is where I get angry by Riot's bullshit. They say, we're going to reduce the amount of snowballing, but I did read the previous section. Do I have a bad memory? No, I don't think I do. I think I have a pretty good memory. And my good memory leads me to believe that when I did read this previous section, we're trying to find the best compromise between solo queue and pros. You don't want to purely sacrifice one for the benefit of the other. And by that, they did mean they don't want to sacrifice pro play for solo queue. And they also said they weren't even going to do it until the preseason at earliest. So when they're saying, down here, we want to reduce snowballing, what they're saying is, we want to reduce snowballing in a way that doesn't impact pro play, and we won't even be doing it until the preseason. Great. Cool. How long until the preseason? It's August, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months. Oh, cool, man. 5 months from now, you guys might get to it. Do you want to clap? Do you want me to, like... What do you want me to do? I read your statement. I read your blog. You said that, not me. You told me it was going to take 5 months for you to get to it, and you might not even get to it. Great, cool, awesome. You're going to reduce snowballing, maybe, when we get to it. Can I use that when I pay my rent? Can I just say, oh yeah, we're going to get to that, but we don't want to sacrifice my bank account just for this rent debt? Like, roll balance. Top and bot lanes are in a perpetual seesaw of one feeling strong and the other feeling weak. Okay, true, but I mean, realistically, they're the two carry lanes, are they not? Mid lane often plays the assassins, often plays the snowball champions, but they don't really play the carry champions. So yeah, it's top and bot. And you say it's in a seesaw, but, you know, let's be blunt, 90% of the time, there's a fat dude on the other seesaw, and I'm just up in the sky. Right? Like, you act like this is a back and forth, and it's not just one dude the entire time controlling it, and then 20% of the time I get it, right? Like, how many times is top stronger than bot? I would actually say about 20% of the time. It is not much, right? 1 out of 5 seasons at best. For the vast majority of players in almost all levels of play, top and bot are close in power level and agency. The exception here is bot lanes in very high skill brackets where players are able to better coordinate with their teams, absorb pressure without dying, and consistently optimize their damage dealt. In my video, I have talked about this. I will read the next section, but I have talked about this, and I'll give you my thoughts. In elite play, top is lower on desired power level, but bot is close to the right power level, but both are low on agency. This means it's oftentimes in the hands of other roles to determine which lane gets to play the game and utilize the power of that lane effectively. Okay, I'm gonna answer this section first. Right, the problem that you're getting to is at the highest levels of play, because you nerfed Second Wind, because you nerfed Doran's Shield, top laners cannot play for the late game. It is extremely common, and to prove how extremely common, I can just literally show you. I can actually just in real time in 4K show you this. If I bring up Garen, and I go to Garen, and I go to his runes table, what do we see? At the low ranks, Garen goes conditioning 56% of the time, overgrowth 62% of the time. Very, very, very many times. Over half the games, Garen goes with a late game conditioning overgrowth build. Here's the problem. Once we go to Masters Plus, what do you think we're going to see? Conditioning is down to 47% and overgrowth is down to 57%. And we'll see similar shifts for every single champion in the game. And they will be far more prominent. I promise you, they will be far more prominent than this. If we look at a champion like, that's not right. If we look at a champion like Kosante, we can see at the low ranks, he goes conditioning 64% of the time, overgrowth 83% of the time. At Masters Plus, that drops all the way down to 27% of the time he goes conditioning and 70% of the time he goes overgrowth. That's... how much is that? That's less than half, Riot. In less than half the time at the high ranks, Kosante can afford to go conditioning. The blunt truth here is you have a rune setup, and it's not just conditioning, it's not just overgrowth, it's all these different things. It's what champions you can play, it's what runes you can go on them, it's what items you can go on them. At the high ranks, the problem is you have put the lane, you've put the game in a situation where choosing to play for late game is incorrect the overwhelming majority of the time. Whereas at the low ranks, playing for late game is correct the overwhelming majority of the time. So yes, at the low ranks, we will see top lane performing better at carrying games because they can do these late game options. At the high ranks, top lane has to build only for the early game. They have to play early game second wind Kosante. They need to go second wind Renekton. They can't afford to go conditioning Renekton. Okay? If you want to equal this out, what you need to do is go through the different champions, you need to go through the different items, you need to go through the different runes. Maybe you remove second wind. Maybe you remove bone plating. Maybe you move conditioning down into an area where it's better in the early game and worse in the late game. Because, to be blunt, I would like to go conditioning as a bruiser. I would like to get that armor and magic resist to cover my high health pool. Because bruisers items have lots of health, very little armor, and almost no magic resist. There's only one bruiser item with magic resist, and it's not very good right now. And so the problem is, at the low ranks, you can go conditioning Garen into health stacking, and you can end up with a very tanky champion. At the low ranks, you can go conditioning Kosante and scale harder. At the low ranks, you can go conditioning Jax. You can do conditioning Aatrox. At the high ranks, you simply cannot do these things. And because you cannot do these things, the lane will scale worse. And again, it's not just that, it's champion choices as well. At the high ranks, the most popular champion is Renekton, because he's just good. But does Renekton scale that well? He scales at this point. You've buffed him a lot in the late game, I will admit that. But the point of the matter is high rank tends to choose earlier game champions. That's your fault, Riot. You have deliberately balanced the game in a way where top laners must play hard to the early game or else they get snowballed off the map. To reference this one, if you guys want to talk about who gets to play the game, yes, I mean, I think bot laners and top laners can come together. We might be able to form a union, a coalition, if you will, of the top laner, bot laner alliance of, seriously, fuck the jungler. Because honestly, screw the jungler. The jungle has been so overpowered, and it does. I know you joke about it, you put it in quotes, who gets to play the game, but that's the blunt truth. Who gets to play the game is determined by who gets the jungle. The jungle can gank way too often, way too effectively, and completely dominate the game. It is not fun to deal with. It's not. It's not fun at all to deal with. It is extraordinarily unfun for everyone, I assure you. While we've been slowly reducing the need to play around bot lane in the early game, it is still, at time of writing, the optimal way to play. Yes, I agree. The optimal way to play the game right now is to spam gank bot lane. The optimal way to play top lane is to try to cause as much a ruckus as you can, so the jungler goes top lane, so their jungler isn't bot lane. I've won so many of my games, literally, off just being spam ganked. One option we have is continuing to lower the power level of bot and push it further into the low agency category, but that's not the problem. The problem at this point is that AD carries do too much sustained damage and don't have enough survivability. That's what I would say is the problem with AD carries. That's the problem with bot lane. Too much DPS, not enough survivability. However, continuing to nerf bot lane won't really fix the problem. Not really. The problem right now is jungle gets to win bot lane. Until you address that issue, you're going to continuously be buffing and nerfing bot lane. You'll be putting them on a loop-de-loop roller coaster where you're just buffing and nerfing them patch to patch because you're trying to get bot lane to be less decisive, but the reason it's decisive is because jungle can decide it for them. However, we don't want to do this at the expense of player satisfaction with the role. I mean, it would feel bad. I do agree, it would feel bad, and we do have to balance on player feeling. Okay? Bot lane feels bad. Even though they do way too much DPS, It feels bad to die. Even though the only thing you can do against them is one-shot them, it feels bad when you one-shot them. If anyone's just listening to me, I'm rolling my eyes very hard right now. All my sympathy for bot lane just went out the window. Yeah, fuck these people. Yeah, dude, it feels bad. It feels bad. Yeah, shut the fuck up. Having said that, a lot of bot lane is outplaying ganks, which we know is not how bot laners want their agency expressed. Well, yeah, but I mean, that's all the game is right now. I mean, to be blunt, nobody stays in lane. Everyone just roams. The support roams, the mid roams, the jungle roams. Bot and top lane, all you do is you're just dodging ganks. You're just, ooh, gank, ooh, gank, ooh, gank, gank. Whoever can dodge the most ganks, that who wins, right? It's just not fun. Jungle is currently still overpowered, and I believe a significant contributor to the feelings of lack of agency from top and bot especially. Well, yeah, I mean, by significant contributor, do you mean like 95% of the problem? Like 5% of the problem is mid laners roaming too much. Like 5% of the problem is supports roaming too much. But none of those really like end the game. What ends the game is a jungle just deciding, I'm going to gank you, I'm going to wait for you to get back to lane, gank you again, then I'm going to wait again, then I'm going to gank you again, then I'm going to wait again, then I'm going to gank again. I mean, both with and against me, I've had games that are basically over, honestly, 8 minutes or less, just because the jungle just keeps going top and just keeps diving. Over and over and over. We're going to further adjust the jungle to get a sweet spot where the role is still fun, lanes feel like they can control their own destiny, and ganks are still effective, and keep certain strategies like perma pushing from getting out of hand. Well, here's the only issue. As of right now, I don't know what you mean by perma pushing. Do you mean like perma pushing Heimerdinger? Do you mean like Heimerdinger just perma-pushing and harassing you under turret? Do you mean perma-pushing like proxying with Scion and Aatrox and that sort of stuff? Because for a lot of top laners, that's just how they've learned to deal with the current meta, is that you just permanently push your wave, or you just start proxying your wave. So if you mean perma-pushing like Heimerdinger, well, the solution is to not balance Heimer on being ganked. The solution is to balance Heimer on actually being fair. I know that probably sounds like a complete alien concept to Riot. We should balance Heimerdinger on being fair. And they're like, oh, man, oh, how do you expect us to do, like, but the problem is, you know, maybe the champion should be fair and not just jungle bait. Maybe Alawi past early game should be fair and not just jungle gank bait, right? Like maybe there should be more you can do on most champions. Like I know a lot of champions can beat up Alawi, but if I'm playing like Scion against Alawi, or if I'm playing Ornn or those sorts of champions against Alawi, all I can do against her, the only thing I can do is just hope my jungler comes. And it's not just an Alawi problem, it's a lot of problems. Like there is an issue, 100%, there is an issue where you have balanced champions on being spam ganked. How do I beat Quinn without a jungler? I can't. How do I beat Jace without a jungler? I can't. How do I beat Akshan without a jungler? I can't. How do I beat Teemo? I can't. The entire design flaw here is you've made these ranged champions so damaging so that they can try to get kills before they get spam ganked. But that's not fun for me when I'm fighting them, and it certainly probably isn't fun for my jungler who needs to just repeatedly go top and deal with a dude who's just spam pushing. So it's on you to work on that, Riot. It's on you to work on that. There should not be like 10 top laners whose entire design is to win lane then lose game. There shouldn't be Quinn and Akshan and Jace and Heimer and Teemo. And I mean, how many other champions that are just Rumble is another one. All they do is they free win the game, or I should say the lane. There's nothing you can do to out-trade them. There's nothing you can do to beat them in lane. Unless they horribly misplay, they just automatically win. But then as the game proceeds, they slowly fall off. The problem is you've never adjusted that problem. You've never looked into that issue. You've never done that. In fact, you've actually made it worse with Rumble. You've made it worse because now Rumble wins so goddamn hard, he like kills champions in 2 or 3 seconds in the laning phase. He can literally overheat, run at you, and auto you a few times, and you're just dead from full. because you decided that he needs percent health damage, which is significantly better early game. He needs percent health damage on his passive and on his Q, and he needs to shred 60% of your magic resist. What is the downside to that? What did you make the weakness of that? Well, you made him not really scaled the best. So now it's even easier to beat Rumble late game. But hey, you made him super turbo mega ultra super broken early game. Now I kind of just need my jungle. If I don't pick the right champion, I'm going to need my jungle to deal with him. Now, is that fun? Is that interesting? I don't think so. And you did that. That wasn't me. You can't pretend like, oh man, the game is set up in this way, because I didn't do this, surely. We're continuing to explore ways that lanes would like to have agency over the game. Top laners aren't a monolithic entity, as they're often split between players that are looking for 1v1 fights and others that want to influence the map and group. That's fine, honestly. Like, if I'm playing against Aurelia and I'm playing Aatrox, then I just need to influence the map and I need to group. Meaning I'm going to push my wave and I'm going to try to roam. If I'm playing Aatrox against Sion, then Sion is going to want to try to group and I'm going to want to try to 1v1 him. So, in all honesty, I think you're looking at this in the wrong situation. Smart players will realize what they need to do to win the game. Sometimes you can 1v1 your opponent, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you want to force a split push because you know your team fight is worse, and sometimes you don't want to force a split push because your team isn't worse. I can play one Aatrox game and I can want to force a split push, and I can play one Aatrox game and I want a team fight. I can play Renekton game and I know that my opponent is playing something like Akshan and I can easily crush him on the split push. Then I can play the next Renekton game and my opponent is playing something like Malphite that will take too long to die, so now I do want a team fight. And now I do want to push him in and roam because I know I'm better at pushing and roaming than Malphite is. Do you understand all this? We don't believe a one-size-fits-all solution to solve top lane agency exists. Well, that's true. But what top laners want is they want their ability to impact the game, be it through 1v1ing, be it through roaming, be it through team fighting. They want their ability to do that, not influenced and determined by whether or not the opposing jungler is just going to AFK on you. Can I roam if the jungler is AFK on me? No, I need to play safe under turret or I just get spam ganked. Can I 1v1 if the jungler is AFK on me? No, can't do that either. However, we're figuring out how to deliver some of the things that top laners agree on. Better scaling and less punishment when leaving your lane to impact the map. But the thing here is, right, is we have been saying this for a long time. Turret plates were a good idea at first, but the issue is, as time has gone on, turret plates have been a tax that top laners have to pay. If you're fighting a ranged champion, they will always get 1 or 2 plates on you because they can just push you in and take the plates. B, if you want to roam and impact the game because you're not that great at 1v1ing, you can't just give up the gold and XP on minions. Now you're giving up the gold and XP on minions and the gold on your turret, which is a lot of gold. There's gold in that turret, a lot of gold. It also means that if you win your lane really hard and your opponent just continues to try to push, and your opponent just continues to go for turret plates, you can very much and very easily find yourself in a situation where if you try to roam to bot lane and the roam doesn't go well, that your opponent takes 3-4 plates, takes a bunch of minion waves, and now they've caught up to you. So now your entire lead has been blown. So, you know, maybe work on turret plates. Maybe turret plates should go down to like 140 gold, 130, not 175 at any rate. Maybe like 100? While our strategy of buffing weak top laners up, typically with scaling, and nerfing other roles down has been directionally effective, there's still more work to do. Yes, you have been buffing top laners and you have been nerfing champions for other roles. Primarily, I'm concerned not with supports, a little bit with AD carries, not with mid laners, other than LeBlanc and kind of Zed. The role I'm concerned with is jungle. Jungle is the most overpowered and they have the most broken champions, bar nothing. Even with the role being overpowered, the champions in that role are even more overpowered, often being able to become the best 1v1ers despite also spam ganking. Jungle is nutty. Jungle is just absolutely nutty. I'm sorry to say. Champions like Kha'Zix, Viego, Graves, Nidalee, either they're so fucking good early game that they can spam gank and outlevel everyone and gank 900 times and clear 7 camps in between ganking like Nidalee, or they scale so well like Kindred that they just eventually take over the game and dominate. Or Graves takes over the game and dominates. Viego takes over the game and dominates. These are just champions that are just so overtuned. It's just not fun to deal with them. It's not fun to be spam ganked by somebody like 4 or 5 times, and then they're out leveling you. Even if you survive all their ganks, or sorry, not out leveling you, they're out scaling you. It's not fun to be ganked by Kindred 5 times, only die once, and oh wait, now she can crush you 1v1? And she's obliterating you in team fights? Huh? There's also the upper limit to these types of changes. Before we return to things like fighters and tanks permanently occupying mid lane. This has never happened ever. The most that has ever happened, Riot seems to throw temper tantrums all the time. This is one of those temper tantrums they're throwing. At Worlds, sometimes Sion would go mid to match Qiyana. Now, does that mean Sion is overpowered? No, it meant that Qiyana was so goddamn strong that the only thing you could really do is throw a tank at her. Nobody wanted a Sion on their team. Still nobody wants a Sion on their team. He's a tank. He doesn't really do anything after the early game. But you go mid lane and you can try to bully people in the mid lane, particularly champions like Qiyana or maybe a LeBlanc, and that's what you can do. Now, nobody's been able to bully LeBlanc in quite some time, but that's the general idea. Now, that doesn't mean they're dominating mid lane. I mean, here, I'll pull this up. I will put my money where my mouth is. Here is, oops. Here is, U.GG Masters Mid popularity. Let's find the first bruiser and tank, quote, permanently occupying mid lane. So we got Zed, Akali, Ori, LeBlanc, Yone, Yasuo, Jace, Sylas, Syndra, Tristana, Xerath, Katarina, Azir, Talon, Talia, Vladimir, Lissandra, Qiyana, Nico, Victor, Zoe, Akshan, Nefiri, Kassadin, Irelia. Okay, we have Irelia at 25. Okay. Fizz, Cassiopeia, Lux, Orianna, Echo, Twisted Fate, Anivia, Malzahar, Aurelion Sol, Pantheon. Do we consider Pantheon? I thought we considered Pantheon a mid laner. Is he not a mid laner anymore? Because he definitely balanced Irelia to be mid laner. Vex, Galio, Diana, Annie, Swain, Ryze, Vigard, Karma, Renekton at 44. Kosante at 45. Malphite at 48. So what is the upper limit here, Riot? Because I don't quite see these champions dominating mid lane. I see them being sparingly picked sometimes in mid lane. And is that so bad? Can champions only go into one lane? Is top lane just the home for misfit kids still? Can Renekton not decide to go mid lane? Can Irelia not decide to go mid lane? Can you not lane swap? Can Kosante not be used to try to deal with hyper aggressive champions in mid lane? As mentioned in the previous section, we intend to take a look at elite snowballing to help address some of this after Worlds. After Worlds, after Worlds, after preseason, after the first season, after mid-season, after the second season, after Worlds, after preseason again. As jungle and mid are often the roles that are more likely to snowball the early game out of control, and we hope to give some agency back to other roles. So here's the problem. Throughout this entire blog that I've read, throughout this entire thing, what is my takeaway? Hey man, we'll get to this shit later. We know this is a problem. Don't worry, we'll get to it later. Cool. So that's about all I can say about this entire thing. If you guys have any comments, leave me a comment down below. Otherwise, Rise of the Elements. What is Rise of the Elements? Was that a TFT thing? Oh well. So as always, thank you to all my YouTube members, Kick subscribers, Patreon people. Subscribe to my Patreon. I intend to put some videos onto my Patreon because I'm gonna try to do reviews for my variety channel. Or I mean, try to. I mean, we'll see if they do any good, right? So Patreon people, if you're in my Patreon, also join my Discord because, you know, it's kind of nice to have you guys in my Discord because I can add you guys if I have like a video idea and I can show you guys early. I know I haven't done that much, but I intend to do that more because I'm trying to get that variety channel growing, so to speak. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody. As always, have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye, everybody.